What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Now look, we talk a lot about greatness, we talk about championships, we talk about rings, we talk about who got the hardware at the end of the day. But let's be real for a minute. Not every NFL legend has a Super Bowl ring. See, a lot of cats get caught up in that ring culture thinking if you ain't got a ring, you ain't the GOAT. But I'm here to tell you, that ain't the whole story. Some of the most dominant, most feared, most electrifying players to ever touch a football field walked away without that Lombardi trophy. Today, we're counting down 10 Hall of Famers who never got that elusive championship. These are the guys who put up video game numbers, who changed the way their position was played, who had defenses shaking in their cleats every single Sunday. They did everything a man could possibly do on that gridiron, everything except hoist that one trophy at the end of the season. Their careers are a testament to individual brilliance, to sustained excellence over a long period of time. They made Pro Bowls, they were all pros, and they got that gold jacket in Canton, Ohio. But that one team accomplishment, that one thing they probably wanted more than anything, it just slipped through their fingers. So pull up a chair, grab you something to sip on, because we about to get into it. This ain't about knocking nobody, this is about giving flowers to the legends who balled out regardless. We're gonna break down their careers, the moments they almost got there, and why their legacies are still cemented in NFL history, ring or no ring. Let's see which all-time greats just missed out. It's gonna be a good one, trust me. Let's get to it. Coming in at number 10, we got the man with the golden arm, Dan Marino. Now listen to me, when you talk about pure passers, cats who could just stand in that pocket and sling that pill all over the yard, Marino's name gotta be one of the first to come out your mouth. The man had a release so quick, it was like a cobra striking. Before all these quarterbacks nowadays started throwing for 5,000 yards on the regular, Dan the Man did it back in 1984. He threw for 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns that year. 48. That was a record that stood for 20 years. He was an absolute surgeon out there, picking defenses apart with that cannon he called an arm. He redefined the quarterback position. But here's the thing, Unc. He got to the big dance one time in that same 84 season, his second year in the league. He went up against Joe Montana and the 49ers in Super Bowl 19. Everybody thought this kid is going to be back here year after year, but he never made it back. He spent his whole career with the Miami Dolphins, putting up ridiculous numbers, leading them to the playoffs time and time again, but he could never get over that hump. He retired as the all-time leader in damn near every passing category. But that one empty spot on his resume, that Super Bowl ring, it just wasn't meant to be. A true legend of the game, no doubt about it. Alright, at number 9, we gotta talk about maybe the most electrifying player to ever touch the football. I'm talking about Barry Sanders. See, there's running backs, and then there was Barry. This man was a human joystick. He could make you miss in a phone booth. He'd be going one way, then bam, he's going the other. Defenders would have him dead to rights. And next thing you know, they'd be grabbing at air while Barry was taking it 60 yards to the house. He was Houdini in cleats. He ran for over 1,000 yards in every single one of his 10 seasons. 10 for 10. That's a level of consistency that's just unheard of. The problem was, he was doing all this for the Detroit Lions. And Lord have mercy, those Lions teams were something else. They just couldn't build a consistent winner around him. He'd be out there breaking ankles, making guys look silly, carrying that whole offense on his back, but they only won a single playoff game in his entire career. One, it's a crying shame. Then out of nowhere, when he was just 1,457 yards shy of Walter Payton's all-time rushing record, he just hung it up, walked away from the game. It shocked everybody. A generational talent who never even sniffed a Super Bowl. His highlight reel is still one of the best you'll ever see, though. Pure magic. Coming in at number 8, a man whose name became a verb. You got Moss. I'm talking about the one and only Randy Moss. Straight cash, homie. When this dude came into the league with the Minnesota Vikings, he was a different breed of receiver. 6'4", could run like a deer, and could jump out the gym. He was a defensive coordinator's worst nightmare. You couldn't press him, he'd run right by you. You couldn't play off him, he'd catch a comeback route. You put two guys on him, Tom Brady or Daunte Culpepper would just throw it up and let him go get it. He was a cheat code. He put up monster numbers everywhere he went, from Minnesota to Oakland to New England. And in 2007 with the Patriots, it looked like he was finally going to get that ring. That team was a juggernaut going 18-0. Moss caught a record 23 touchdown passes that year from Tom Brady. They were unstoppable. They get to the Super Bowl against the New York Giants, and it's all lined up. Late in the game, Moss even catches what looked like the go-ahead touchdown. But then, Eli Manning and David Tyree pull off that helmet catch miracle. The Patriots' perfect season was ruined, and Randy's best shot at a title was gone. He was one of the most dominant forces we've ever seen, but the championship just eluded him. At number 7, we got the man with the goggles and the jerry curl, Eric Dickerson. ED was a glider. When he ran, it looked effortless. He had this upright running style that was so smooth, but man, he had breakaway speed. He'd hit that hole and he was just gone. Nobody was catching him from behind. As a rookie with the Los Angeles Rams, he set the rookie rushing record with over 1,800 yards. Then in his second year, 1984, he did something nobody thought was possible. He broke O.J. Simpson's single-season rushing record, going for 2,105 yards, a record that still stands to this day. Think about that. With all the great backs that have come and gone, nobody's touched that record. Dickerson was a workhorse, a true bell cow back for the Rams and later the Colts. He led the league in rushing 4 different times. He was the fastest player to reach 10,000 career rushing yards. The man was a machine, but his teams always came up short in the playoffs. He played in 2 NFC Championship games with the Rams, but lost both times. He got the Colts to the playoffs, but they couldn't get over the hump either. He was one of the most productive runners in the history of the league, a guy who owned one of the most prestigious records in all of sports, but he retired without ever even playing in a Super Bowl. Now for number 6, we got to go to the defensive side of the ball. Let's talk about the all-time sack king, Mr. Bruce Smith. This man was a terror off the edge for the Buffalo Bills. He was the cornerstone of that great Bills defense in the early 90s. He had the perfect combination of speed, power, and technique. He could bull rush you, he could beat you with a swim move, he could spin his way to the quarterback. For 2 decades, if you were a left tackle in the AFC, you had to see Bruce Smith twice a year, and that was 2 nights you weren't getting any sleep. He finished his career with 200 sacks. 200. The most ever. That record speaks for itself, but oh, the heartbreak. Bruce and those Buffalo Bills teams were so good, but they just couldn't win the big one. They went to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row. 4 from 1990 to 1993, and they lost every single one of them. First, the wide right kick against the Giants. Then they got beat by Washington. Then they got blown out by the Cowboys 2 years in a row. Can you imagine the mental toughness it takes to get back to the mountaintop 4 straight times only to fall short each time? It's brutal. Bruce Smith is a first-ballot Hall of Famer, the all-time leader in sacks, but he's also the face of one of the most snake-bitten teams in sports history. Hitting the top 5, we got a guy whose motto was, "All he does is catch touchdowns." Cris Carter. Now look, when Carter first came into the league with the Eagles, he had some issues, but he got a second chance with the Minnesota Vikings. And man, did he make the most of it. His hands were legendary. They were like magnets. If the ball was anywhere in his vicinity, he was coming down with it. His sideline catches were a work of art. He'd be dragging both feet, contorting his body, and still securing the catch. He was the ultimate possession receiver, the guy you went to on 3rd down when you absolutely had to move the chains. He and Randy Moss on that '98 Vikings team were something special. That offense with Randall Cunningham at quarterback was one of the most explosive in NFL history. They set the record for points in a season at the time. They went 15-1. It looked like they were destined to win it all. But then they get to the NFC Championship game against the Atlanta Falcons. Their kicker, who hadn't missed all year, shanks a field goal late in the game. They end up losing in overtime. It was devastating. Carter was the heart and soul of that team, a guy who resurrected his career to become a Hall of Famer, but that one game, that one kick, kept him from his only real shot at a Super Bowl ring. At number 4, we're going old school with one of the original scramblers, the scrambler himself, Fran Tarkenton. Before there was Steve Young, before there was Randall Cunningham, before Michael Vick, there was Fran. This man was driving defensive linemen crazy back in the 60s and 70s. The play would break down and Fran would just start running around in the backfield, ducking and dodging, keeping his eyes downfield until somebody came open. He was an innovator for sure. At the time of his retirement, he held every major quarterback record, passing yards, touchdowns, completions, you name it. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler and an MVP. Tarkenton led the Minnesota Vikings to 3 Super Bowls in 4 years in the mid-70s. He was the leader of that legendary Purple People Eaters era. They were dominant in the regular season, a powerhouse in the NFC, but man, they just could not get it done on Super Bowl Sunday. They lost to the Dolphins in Super Bowl 8, the Steelers in Super Bowl 9, and the Raiders in Super Bowl 11. 3 trips to the big game and 3 losses. It's tough. Fran Tarkenton was a revolutionary player, a guy who changed how people thought about the quarterback position, and a certified winner, except in the one game that mattered most. Now we get into the real nitty-gritty. At number 3, I'm talking about a man who defined the middle linebacker position. The name itself just sounds mean. Dick Butkus. This man played with a ferocity that was just on another level. He was the heart and soul of the Chicago Bears defense in the 60s and early 70s. He wasn't just a tackler, he was a punisher. He wanted to intimidate you, to make you hear footsteps for the rest of the game. He had an unbelievable nose for the football, recovering 27 fumbles in his career, which was a record when he retired. He was the monster in the middle. Butkus was, without a shadow of a doubt, the most feared defensive player of his era. He was an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 5-time first-team All-Pro. He was everything you could ever want in a defensive leader. The only problem, the Chicago Bears teams he played on were, to put it nicely, not very good. They had only 2 winning seasons during his entire 9-year career. He never even got to play in a single playoff game. Can you believe that? One of the greatest, most dominant defensive players to ever live never even got a taste of the postseason. His body was so beat up from carrying those teams that he had to retire early. He gave everything he had to the game, but the game never gave him a winning team in return. And look, we got to separate the player from the person here. We're talking strictly about what happened on the football field. And on the football field, O.J. Simpson, the Juice, was an absolute phenomenon. He was the first superstar running back of the Super Bowl era. He had it all, the speed, the moves, the charisma. When he got the ball in his hands, it was electric. The whole stadium would hold its breath. In 1973, he did something that was just mind-boggling. He became the first player in NFL history to rush for over 2,000 yards in a season. And get this, he did it in a 14-game season. He averaged 143 yards per game that year. That's just insane. He was the face of the league, an MVP, a 5-time first-team All-Pro. He was the engine for those Buffalo Bills teams of the 70s. But much like some of the other guys on this list, the team success just wasn't there. He put up all these incredible individual stats, won all these rushing titles, but he only played in 1 playoff game in his entire career. 1. It was in 1974 against the Pittsburgh Steelers in their steel curtain defense, and they got handled pretty easily. For a player of his stature, a guy who was that dominant and that popular, it's kind of shocking that he had virtually no postseason success. On the field, he was one of the greatest runners ever, but the team accolades never came. And at number 1, the top spot on this list, it's got to be the Kansas Comet, Gale Sayers. Now, I know some of the younger cats might not know about Gale Sayers, so let me tell you something. This man's career was like a flash of lightning. It was short, it was brilliant, and it was gone before you knew it. He came into the league with the Chicago Bears in 1965 and was instantly one of the most dynamic players anybody had ever seen. In 1 game in his rookie season, he scored 6 touchdowns. 6. He was a threat to score every single time he touched the ball. Whether it was a handoff, a reception, or a kick return. He was a poet in motion. The way he cut and glided through defenses was beautiful to watch. George Hollis himself said he was the greatest running back he ever saw, but his career was tragically cut short by devastating knee injuries. He only played 68 games in the NFL, and like his teammate Dick Butkus, those Bears teams were just bad. He never played on a winning team, never got a sniff of the playoffs, let alone a Super Bowl. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame as the youngest player ever, a testament to just how incredible his short career was. He is the ultimate what-if story in NFL history, and for my money, the greatest player to never even get a chance to play for a ring. And there you have it. 10 absolute legends of the game, 10 Hall of Famers who put their bodies on the line, who dominated their eras, and who left an indelible mark on the National Football League. When you look at this list, Marino, Barry, Moss, Bruce Smith, it's a who's who of all-time greats. It just goes to show you that a championship is a team award. You can be the greatest player on the planet, But if the pieces don't fall into place around you, that ring can stay just out of reach. It doesn't diminish their greatness one bit. Their gold jackets and cantons shine just as bright as anyone else's. These legends proved you don't need a ring to leave a lasting legacy in the NFL Hall of Fame. Their highlights, their records, and the way they changed the game are their legacy. They inspired a whole generation of players who came after them. They are the standard by which greatness is measured at their respective positions. So next time you hear somebody in a barbershop debate talking about rings, remember these names. Remember the individual brilliance that transcends team success. It's about more than just the hardware. So now I gotta ask y'all, who did I miss? Is there someone else who deserves to be on this list? Who do you think is the greatest player to never win a Super Bowl? Let us know in the comments. I read all of them. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what we got coming next. We appreciate y'all for tapping in. Until next time, be easy.